All right, so today we're going to be watching a video. This is from the Young Turks. I'm not a big fan of the Young Turks. I've had my problems with them in the past, but they seem to be the easiest access to a coverage of this story that I think is really fascinating, and I kind of want to talk about it. So let's see what TYT has to say about this.
We had a 6-3 decision drop from the Supreme Court this past, what I think it was about Tuesday or Wednesday. But essentially, the right-leaning Supreme Court gutted established precedent really on when you can sue a federal agent for violating your civil rights. Now, the decision effectively gives Border Patrol agents who violate the Constitution, gives them complete immunity from lawsuits seeking to hold them accountable for these unreasonable searches and also uses of excessive force.
So this is really fascinating, really, really fascinating. And this is, so I'm sure that a lot of you guys understand that the panic at the border, the crisis at the border is all manufactured, and it has been it's been manufactured for a long time. And it is racist as fuck. It's racist as fuck because even when things are better, they're worse. It has to be a constant panic. Even though like illegal immigration has slowed down over the past few years, it has to be, well, now there are huge migrant caravans arriving and blah blah blah. Even things with like the kids in cages issues, like that is stuff that's been happening for a long time. And yeah, there are policy changes that change the way things are handled and how many people are let in versus how many people are detained, et cetera, et cetera. But for people that are actually working in it, and as far as the numbers themselves go, there is no panic. It is not that fucking complicated. However, one thing that we've always had a problem with is that the response to the immigration crisis has notoriously been bad. And a lot of that manifests as people, getting jobs as Border Patrol agents who end up being shitheads, or people doing like militia patrolling of the border and blah, blah, blah. And they end up doing terrible, terrible shit. But at least there was some accountability because these are law enforcement officers. The Supreme Court, Trump Supreme Court, has now gutted your ability to get in some way justice when they do overreach, which now compels them to not have to worry about whether or not they are overreaching. That's a problem.
Now, we know this from the Wall Street Journal. Congress hasn't expressly authorized such lawsuits, and courts shouldn't interfere. They are allowed. Justice Clarence Thomas wrote for the court's conservative majority. Wednesday's decision was the latest in recent decades to retreat from a 1971 precedent known as Bivens that implied a right to sue federal officers for violating the Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable searches and seizures.
Yeah, it's a great idea for the Supreme Court. For the Supreme Court to rule against something that was to establish and maintain that our rights are there, our constitutional, the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, like that's supposed to be given to all of us, and we should all enjoy it. And then we had a court case to make sure that, we have that protection. And then the Supreme Court's like, actually, YOLO, maybe we should just not do that anymore. Why?
Yes, Bivens had been established and it'd been with some 51 years, but of course, we have this right-leaning Supreme Court that has gutted it. And here are some of the details about the specific case. Now, this case was brought in 2017 by Robert Bohl, who owned the Smuggler's Inn. That's a bed and breakfast located in Washington state along the Canadian border. Bohl had a complicated relationship with the feds, according to the court's opinion. He sometimes served as a paid confidential informant, helping agents identify people crossing the border illegally near his property. He also provided lodging and shuttle service to those crossing illegally. In March 2014, he told Eric Egbert, a Border Patrol agent, that a Turkish citizen was scheduled to arrive at the inn. When the guest's car reached the inn, Mr. Egbert entered Bohl's property without a warrant. Now, Bohl said that he told the agent to leave, only to be thrown against the vehicle and then to the ground.
Why? That's so interesting. So the guy was a stoolie for the feds. Actually, is Border? Yeah, I don't know. For Border Patrol, and like the agreement, it seems to be, was that he was allowed to conduct his business as necessary, And he would then just also be an informant for whatever, so they can keep their fucking numbers up, because that's how that kind of law enforcement bullshit works. Is all about numbers and funding. And then the dude's just like, I'm just gonna fuck you up.
Now, Mr. Bull ended up suing that agent, Egbert, for violating his Fourth Amendment rights. And the ruling initially didn't go.
Border is fed. I thought so. I didn't want to speak out of turn. Thank you.
Bull's way, as the New York Times has reported, a federal trial judge dismissed the case, saying the Bivens decision did not allow the sorts of claims Mr. Bull pressed. A 3-judge panel on the U.S. Court of Appeals to the Ninth Circuit, however, unanimously reversed that dismissal, allowing Mr. Bull to pursue both theories. Now, Egbert's lawyer argued that allowing Bull's claims would undermine the ability of Border Patrol agents to engage in searches as part of their immigrant enforcement responsibilities. The Biden administration backed the agent's position. And ultimately, well, he prevailed at the Supreme Court. That's the agent who prevailed. So what did the 3 other justices that are more liberal, what did they say about this?
This is what I want to hear.
This per the Washington Post. In the dissent, the court's 3 liberal justices said they would have allowed the Washington state man's lawsuit to proceed against a federal agent. Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote that the court had absolutely immunized from liability thousands of Border Patrol agents, no matter how egregious the misconduct or resultant injury.
So, and this is really the most important thing. It's not whether or not this went to court for the lawsuit to go to court. This is preventing the lawsuit from even happening. So they didn't, you couldn't even present the case of this is fucked up. I want to sue this guy. And they're like, nah, we're not going to let you sue him. We're not going to let you sue him. What the fuck? And that's worse. That is way worse than him suing and then a court ruling in the federal agent's favor. This is just nah, you just can't do it. Nah, you just can't fucking do it. You as a Border Patrol agent, you can go barging into anybody's fucking house inside their jurisdiction, and they can't sue you for it. That's fucked up.
Now, Sotomayor wrote that the majority on Wednesday had rewritten and stretched its own legal standard beyond recognition to close the door to Bull's claim. The conduct at issue, she noted, took place on US soil and the injury was to a US citizen. This case does not remotely implicate national security, she wrote, adding that Congress has not provided that federal enforcement officers may enter private property near a border at any time or for any purpose.
Right.
Now, this decision, the implications, they are far reaching because it basically means that border agents, that they can ignore the Fourth Amendment and do whatever they want. Unfortunately, the only remedy or relief that we would have as citizens is to file a grievance that would end up being investigated by law enforcement themselves.
Right.
And so this case, Egbert, what it does is it forecloses any opportunity to get financial compensation for violations of our civil rights.
Okay, so this is basically how and she was very succinct in stating it, but I'll say it another way. So one of the problems when you have a problem with a cop is, well, who do you tell? Because you have a problem with somebody else and they do something wrong or they do something that harms you or costs you money, you call the cops. What if a cop does that? Well, if you're lucky enough, you can actually get somebody high up enough that wants to maintain some degree of order, maybe internal affairs, investigates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that's usually not what internal affairs is for either. And in the wild imaginary world of how things should work, then the cop can get in trouble. But that often doesn't happen, especially when you come to federal agents. They can just be like, well, we're not going to look into it, Oh, well. Now, you still had the opportunity, and you still do with regular cops. And I'd imagine still with the FBI or whatever, you could probably still do this. But specifically in Border Patrol, this is now changed where before you could at very least sue them for wrongdoing and get paid for it. Yeah, you might have done that and it was fucked up. And I might not be able to get you fired because you did a bad job, but at least I can get some money out of it because that's not fair. There's not even that. So now Border Patrol members, and this is anybody who lives near a coastline or the southern or northern border, anybody, even me here in Eugene, and I'm an hour away from the coast, technically speaking, I'm in the jurisdiction of Border Patrol. Oh yeah, that they, as long as they know that they have a supervisor that will back them, can do whatever they fucking want. And I wouldn't even be able to sue them. That's fucked up. That is fucked up. And that is a big problem. Big, big, big problem. Qualified immunity is getting worse? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It is really fucking crazy. 100 miles from the border. Yeah, if you live 100 miles from the border or the coast, that counts all of Hawaii. All of Hawaii. Holy shit, dude. That fucking sucks. 2/3 of the U.S. population completely at the mercy of Border Patrol agents with absolutely no reason why they can't do whatever the fuck they want. We just have to trust that they're good people. And that's always worked out well for us with law enforcement, hasn't it? Jesus fucking Christ. The Supreme Court is a fucking dumpster fire.